Here she comes.
Category 5.
Category 5.
President Bush
Category
declared
five.
a state of emergency for the entire state of
This
Louisiana.
doesn't bode well for New Orleans.
We had evacuation plans and disaster plans since 1992. But at that time, we were still the only shelter that would fully evacuate their animals.
We typically do a few things. We would take owned animals to a shelter that's closer, adoptable animals to Houston, and then we would take cruelty cases to some other location. But we didn't have time to send them different places, so we sent everything to Houston.
Houston absolutely saved us. We were falling asleep at the wheel, so we had to stop and run around the truck 3 times. We got to Houston, we had all these animals, and they were ready.
We had about 300 animals at the time, cats and dogs, and then they helped us unload, thankfully, because we were about to fall over. We saw that the storm hit, and then I'm not sure how long it was after that we heard about the water coming and the levees breaking, and then we were like, oh crap.
I'll never forget that. I said, this changes our entire life. I don't know what we're gonna do. I said, I gotta call Laura. We have to go back. We have to go back. They won't know what to do about the animals. So I was getting calls from the police, from the fire department. I didn't know what to tell them. We weren't there, and I don't know. And then our phone started ringing from the state level because they didn't know what to do. Not just about animals, they didn't know how to get the people out. They couldn't get the people out. It was all chaos. And they didn't know what to do to get anyone out in any way. It had nothing to do with pets. They aren't even thinking about animals at this point. They couldn't get the people out. And they couldn't get to where people were when that water started coming in.
That sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, and just realizing that it's all gone. It's all gone.
I'm not even sure. There was another vet. I don't even think she's a vet anymore after Katrina. She said, we need your help. We need your help. We need you to set up emergency shelters.
I remember just in minutes calling the Department of Agriculture, knowing that we would need to come back. There was an assumption based on what we were watching that our facility, which was at Japonica Street in that location, was probably not doing very well, or at least was flooded. And so we had to do some quick maneuvering then to really find a location in the city or near the city that we would be able to set up rescue operations. But we hadn't done that previously. We had never set up anything that grand. We eventually did. We worked with Department of Agriculture to identify Lamar Dixon as the rescue facility.
We had volunteers come in from around the country, and we didn't have any staff. We went from close to 100 people to probably 20, because a lot of people who had been on the staff had to evacuate. Their homes were ruined. Everybody was affected in some way by this horrible storm.
The staff that came with me, which were all my officers, they were scared. We all were scared, but I had staff who had family in the lower 9th ward, in the night, just in all the wrong places to be, and they couldn't reach them. I gave them a choice at that point. Anyone who wanted to leave, I would make sure that they got wherever they wanted to go, wherever that was. And they all decided to stay. I had the best staff. I had the best staff.
We would pick up any animals that were stuck in the city, drive them all the way back to Gonzales, get them all unloaded there. And from there, volunteers, some of the most amazing people on this earth, a celebrity even got a private plane to pull animals from Lamar Dixon to another state to get them adopted out or fostered in case the owners are contacted, because every animal, we made absolutely sure we had paperwork that said exactly where we got it, so the owners could find out, oh, hey, that's my animal, and we could connect it with wherever it ended up in the world.
We had a little dog that came in that actually probably was on the border of being euthanized, got it on fluids, got the thing up and running, and the man came yesterday, saw the dog laying in our cages right up there in the vet unit, and he was just in tears as well as the rest of us. And he walked through the cat area and pulled out his 7 cats as well. So it was 8 animals in one effort. That's because you're doing what you're doing.
In Barn 5, when I would do my regular counts, there were over 700 dogs in that one barn. And that was one of 5. One of 5 barns that had animals in it at Lamar-Dixon. My first thing in my head was, there are so many dogs right here. How is this working? And from there, it's just knowing that every step is helping. It's that they were doing this every day, that there were people out there every day bringing more animals in out of the situation that they were in, and that this is temporary. This may not look like a help, sticking them in these little kennels may not look like it's doing much, but it's a step in the process. And you have to get them from one situation to another in order to help them. There has to be a midpoint some way in the way.
Most people in the city that had animals didn't evacuate because of their pets.
I have a good friend that was stuck in Lakeview with her German Shepherd and didn't leave because she didn't have a place to take her dog. And the rescue people come by and he said, "You can't bring a dog." And then she said, "You'll have to shoot me, I'm not leaving my dog."
We had just picked up 2 dogs from down the street, and this blonde lady comes up like hurriedly, frantically to our truck, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm looking for these 2 animals." And I'm like, "Yeah, we just picked them up over there." And she's like, "Well, the National Guard were forcing me away from my house at gunpoint, saying that they could not take my animals, but they had to take me out of the city." When I gave her the dogs, she was just in tears, so thankful, because she did not want to leave them. That's why she was in the city, was to be with her animals. It was a lot of overwhelming feelings. But in the meantime, we're working every day trying to get as much done as possible because everybody's relying on us. And we are the ones who said, yes, we'll do this. It becomes an obligation and a duty, but really, we're just trying to do what anybody would, which is fix it as best we can.
Hey, what's your 20?
Over on Palmer Street.
Do you guys need our help?
Yeah, I think so.
We're on our way.
Man, look at this place. Oh.
Hey, this way. The door, the front door, baby, the front door. Just, hey, can I get your ear? You should hear me. Oh, it's matted. There we go. Other ear. There. Come on. There we go. Good dog. You alright?
Cockroach, sorry.
What happened?
Cockroach.
I can deal with anything else than a big cockroach on my shoulder. That quit. That's a good thing. Oh. Half blind. One eye's got a cataract in it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no, Pumpkin.
The staff really pulled together, as always. We had up to 2,000 animals a day at Lamar-Dixon. But the people who were rescuing and coming in from other facilities didn't know the city because there were no, street signs were gone or there was no grid. None of that existed because we in the country had never faced that kind of animal response. This was really the first response of this scale that set the tone for disaster responses that followed.
I felt like when we came to help, that there was no help for the people. They were just about to open the Superdome as this shelter of last resort thing. But we had to go there because there was like 10,000 people and people had brought their pets. And the buses hadn't come and they had the National Guard. And the National Guard were lined up with their guns. And there was all of these people and their pets. And there was no water, there was no shade. There was sick people, old people, babies. Any animals that might have been there, and there weren't a lot, had been let go. People just let them go. And that made sense, but that created a whole nother issue, because as the dead started mounting, the animals started feeding. So there was a lot of that. But in the Superdome, it was terrible. Like, you put a bunch of people in the Superdome, and then the Superdome caved in. I knew I had to split it. There was 4 of us and 10,000 people and so many animals. And we were taking animals. We started taking animals. I said, take a picture of the people with the animal, get their name, where they think they're going. And there wasn't even who could you call? So I was giving everyone my cell number because we didn't even have a communication system. We gave Lamar Dixon's address. This is where your pet will be. And that's what we did. We were photographing them with their pet, and we were doing our intake forms and things like that. And we hadn't even gotten halfway through the people. We didn't leave though. We didn't leave because we were being inundated by mobs of people with pets and mobs of people just asking what's happening, where are we going, where can we get water? We had given out all of our water. Oh, it was horrific.
It was just a couple of days into the rescue, and we were going block by block, just trying to see how far into the city we could get. The worst was just seeing a dog that was stuck on a rooftop for 2 weeks, no access to food or fresh water, and seeing how emaciated and scrawny that animal is. But it still had the fight in it to stay alive through all that. There was a lot of trauma in the animals. So many of the cats, they were, stuck in an apartment alone for 2-3 weeks by the time I got to them, and they turned feral again. It was very hard for them because dogs are more likely to think better of humans, I think, than cats are. But either way, they weren't sure if it was intentional, if we were ever going to come back. But that one dog that was stuck on the roof that we finally rescued, we got an IV into him as soon as we got into the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. We tried to do everything we could, but he passed away. And I still feel like I should have been able to do more for him, but we just couldn't. You can't save everyone.
During the day was daily care, and then when everybody was done at night, I was out there probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning making my counts. I would just open the kennel and I would kind of lean in with them and just pet them, just see what they were doing. And they would be like, any kind of attention, somebody save me. Why am I in this box? What is going on? Where are my people? What is happening? And as soon as you touch them, they would just lay back and relax. And so I would just go through and try to find the ones that were still awake and so freaked out, and at least as much attention as I could give to let them know, hey, we're here, it's okay.
Anyone that came from a professional organization like the Humane Society of the United States or ASPCA, there were so many animal control offices from around the country that were like, hey, we're going to send you 5 officers, and they would rotate out and they would make sure that we always had help. And it was incredible and overwhelming just to know how much people cared, because when something like Katrina happens, it seems so final, and at first you're like, oh, there's no good people left in this world. There's all this looting, you're hearing about all these bad things happening at the Superdome. But then the other half of that is everyone wants to help. And so you realize, no, humanity is alive in all of us. And there are so many good people in this world. And it really gives you the confidence to go on.
I think what we did through all of this Katrina stuff was Herculean. And it was more than I could have ever asked. And it was more than I think I could ever give again. I think that.
I am so impressed with Destreza to be able to pull something like this off. She just knew what had to be done, and she was so good at delegating and getting everything working. And even Laura Maloney, she went above and beyond to get us places to live. I knew we were taken care of, and I knew I was doing something important.
One of the things that amazed me was how people just focused. They weren't so worried about themselves. And I think because in times of crisis, people seem to put their personal issues aside and really were focused on the mission. And I was blown away by that. I mean, time and again, the emotional contract of the staff, of how tight it was. And I get emotional just talking about it. Oh, yeah, super tight.
I knew that we had an opportunity that we should not lose, and that was to be able to fundraise widely because everybody was watching what was going on in New Orleans at that point. The Humane Society of the United States told us that we could use their national fundraising list, which they had never allowed anybody else to do. I wrote this letter. We got a huge outpouring of response. We raised from that letter, I would say, about $6 million. We are very, very lucky that we have this wonderful shelter and the people who work here.
It is the people in the organization that really show that ability to withstand and flex and respond to the ever-changing issues in the community and emergencies that face us. We saw so many people who risked their lives and lost their lives because they would not leave their pets behind. In the years since then, we have focused on making sure that people and pets stay together during times of emergencies and disasters. We worked on legislation at the federal level, at the state level, and made sure that at the local level, plans always include pets whenever people are in distress and need to be moved elsewhere. So the Louisiana SPCA has always been an incredibly resilient organization. After Katrina, we were very fortunate to be able to build a new shelter with an expanded adoption center and veterinary clinic. There's even more that we want and need to do to make sure that we continue to grow and respond to the ongoing needs of the community. We've been on the front lines of disaster response across Louisiana and beyond, and we're not slowing down. We're transforming our campus, updating our facilities to better serve animals. We're addressing pet overpopulation and breaking down barriers to keep pets and people together. Together, we can create a future where every animal in Louisiana is safe, healthy, and home.